My biological mother found me and wants to contact me, but she has expectations. My parents adopted me and tested my DNA as a child. I'm 24 and was adopted at 6. The fact that my adopted parents adopted me in their late 20s has always made me feel lucky. They were incredible. They have supported and loved me like their own, and I have never felt wanting in my life because of adoption. I knew nothing about my adoption as a youngster. I know social services took me from my biological family due to abuse and neglect, but I have no recall of my life before adoption. Since I never felt like I needed those missing pieces to feel worthy or entire, I haven't thought much about it. Just out of curiosity, I bought an at-home DNA testing kit. I only wanted to know my genetic heritage, especially why I was separated from my family and any health concerns. I wasn't looking for a reunion or serious connection. It seemed like a low-risk way to get answers as I didn't expect to find anyone related to me. After 8 weeks, I remembered to check the results and was startled to learn that I matched with BM, my biological mother. She messaged me to say she was glad I passed the exam and wanted to reconnect with me and my biological family. I had no idea I had a biological little brother who wanted to meet me, but she said she thinks about me every day and had always loved me. I found her message overwhelming and emotional. I don't know her, so reading those lines made me uneasy. I spent a long time to send BM a thoughtful reply in which I said I appreciated her letter but had no desire of connecting with her or my original family. I made it clear that the DNA test was for information only purposes. That's all I wanted to know: my past, removal cause, and maybe medical history. I apologize if I misled her. After receiving my message, BM offered to provide me all the information I needed if I met her at a coffee shop to discuss our relationship. I rejected, telling her I was uncomfortable talking face to face. As a compromise, I offered to call you, but I stated that I only wanted the information so we could go on. She refused to give me any information until I agreed to meet to discuss our relationship. The closest person I told, friend, she sided with BM and called me unfair. She claimed I had basically encouraged this situation by signing for the DNA site, and not meeting with BM right once would be like inviting them in and playing mind games. So, after registering on the DNA testing website, I didn't want a relationship with my biological mother? Op reacted to relevant comments. Queen of Underline, May 1987. To get you to meet her, she's holding your information hostage. Most likely she want to share her story, which is why you left. Because you know her name? Could you contact the organization that removed you for details? I could have requested social services for information, but I'm not sure how much they can share owing to data protection, thus this was an easier choice. It would have been nice to hear from my family, if you understand. Ryodek, an adoptee, fully supports NTA. Your debt to her is 0. I think she should have told you more. Anything she did to lead to the adoption makes her terrible for keeping that information hostage. I don't believe it's odd that your acquaintance thinks that if they're not adopted. Many non-adopted people have weird ideas about adoptee feelings and behaviors. Common knowledge is that our adopted parents saved us and we should thank them. No, they are not adopted, but I can explain their perspective. Despite never wanting a connection with them, they irritated me by labeling me unfair for not having one. I regret BM messaging me first after seeing me there, which may have given her false hope. I wish I had messaged first to express my expectations. Special 77 NTA, a fellow adoptee, said, I regretted meeting my birth mother for 16 years. My selfish and clever self promises to tell you everything when we meet. But no, do not participate. Being undesired feels like what? She told me half-truths and tried to force herself into my life anytime I've told her I don't want her. Egg donor. Hello from an adult in my world. I now have kids. My folks were wonderful. Even though my life wasn't perfect, my parents loved me and wanted the best for me. It's tough since you anticipate differently from your BM. She is unfair and unreasonable by holding the facts you want hostage. Sorry if you have to deal with that. Her behavior is unjust to you. I realized her account was unlikely to be accurate. Still, hearing it from her intrigued me. I was curious about her life, but I wasn't ready for a relationship. Even though she didn't give me her second child's age, I could have met him. It wouldn't have been me saying never. She tried to force my hand, which made the scenario uncomfortable and left a bad taste in my mouth. I think I'll write her a letter. Goodbye letter complaining that I would only be allowed to know such information if we met and discussed establishing a relationship. It seems manipulative. That confirmed my aversion to her. Is that too much? I'm not overstepping by telling her that, right? August 27th, 2024, Update 1. Hello everyone. Since my previous post was 9 days ago, I felt the need to update. I thank everyone who commented and offered advice. Everything I've read has been informative. After evaluating all the ideas, I decided to talk to my biological mother again, hoping she would understand my position if I elaborated. Unfortunately, things worsened swiftly. She became even more deceptive, saying I was selfish for not meeting her in person instead of trying to negotiate. I declined since she wouldn't give me any information unless I met her standards. After all, I think my first family may not be so horrible. They took me out of their care for a reason, but part of me wanted to believe people might change. Looking back, I regret starting this experience. It's brought up a lot of emotions I wasn't ready for, and I'm upset about it. What about my best friend? Another disappointment, I guess. She hasn't. She didn't simply support my biological mom, she was unsupportive throughout. I told her about the recent conversation, but she didn't understand why I was upset. She advised me to be gentle and give them a chance. She doesn't seem to grasp how hard this is for me, and I think she never did. Although I've always considered her one of my closest friends, I'm not sure I can trust her now. I decided to have a supper with my adopted parents to discuss everything. They were great as always, but I hadn't really connected with them about how much this hurt. They said none of this was my fault and disapproved of my biological mother's behavior. I was pulled out of that situation for a purpose, they said, and I'm not responsible for repairing relationships with people who haven't changed. When we talked, I realized how lucky I am to have them. They have showed me that they are my genuine family, who have always loved and supported me and been there for me. After all that's happened, I'm depressed, but they help. I regret starting this DNA journey. I didn't realize how much anguish it would cause, and I wish I'd put the past behind. However, I appreciate that it has helped me realize how lucky I am to have my adopted parents. I couldn't ask for a greater family since they've always supported me. I'm there. I'll let go of others and focus on those that care about me. I'm on the right course, but it's hard. Thank you again for your encouragement, it has helped me feel less alone. Take care, everyone. Update 2, August 27th, 2024. Hi everyone, with everything going on, I've been wondering about my family today. I remembered some of my favorite occasions with them, and one stands out. A childhood memory I will always cherish. I was 8 years old, maybe a few years after adoption. I remember being nervous since it was only me. My second Christmas with my adopted parents occurred around Christmas. Holidays still weird me out. Anyway, my dad's buddy had a Christmas tree farm that year. My folks took me Christmas tree picking. We went through rows of trees for hours. When my parents continued asking which one I preferred, I felt pressed to select the best or ruin Christmas. They were so patient that I could take my time. When I eventually found a tree, my parents made a huge deal about it, even though it looked like every other tree. I remember my dad saying, "This tree may be too strong." He bent down to saw. My father asked me to help him since he couldn't do it alone. Here was 8-year-old me. I'm pretending to cut down this tree with my dad. Despite my inactivity, they made me feel like the world's strongest child. My dad replied, "We did it," grabbing me and whirling me as the tree fell. My mother decked the tree with these old boxes of decorations when we got home. She told me we would start a new practice of choosing a new ornament for the tree each year to commemorate a significant occasion from that year. They handed me my first ornament that night. A wooden bear with a heart etched with family. My mother said it was for you since you completed our family. I felt a newfound affection and belonging as I clutched the ornament. I don't think I realized how important that was. How that moment shapes my self-image. I come from a loving family. I was their family. We took out the small wooden bear and hung it first every Christmas after that. It became our habit. I keep thinking about this because it reminds me how lucky I am to have my parents. They gave me more than simply a home. They offered me love and acceptance. Despite everything, I have something amazing and wouldn't trade it for anything. I appreciate your permission to share this. I wanted to remind myself how great my family is, so I hope this makes you smile too. The next story. I found my wife's hidden diaries and realized she had been cheating for years. I'm in shock and need help. My wife, 37F, and I, 40M, celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary. We have 2 great kids. Since the year began, we've had problems. Since the new year, she's been irritated, avoiding me, and our closeness hasn't increased. Some days she's happy, others enraged. She doesn't always hate our kids, sometimes she wishes they hadn't been born. I went to the urologist for a urinary tract infection, and the test findings suggested an STD. This was shocking because I had only been with my wife since we started dating. In a separate article, I discussed her claimed business seminar overseas. I read, Nen. Desperately, she opens her journals for the first time in almost 10 years. Over the past 2 years, she has had multiple sexual partners. An affair lasted over a year. Her displeasure may have been caused by her lover leaving. I also discovered she has a hidden Tinder account and often meets other men. No words can explain my sadness. I feel absolutely confused and unsure what to do because our 2 tiny children are my world. Please advise on how to proceed. Should I approach her immediately? Should I consult a lawyer? How can I handle this deceit and protect my children? I appreciate any advice you can provide me at this difficult time. I appreciate all your comments. As everyone suggests, I'll try to obtain a discreet legal consulting as soon as possible. Gather as much evidence as possible. Cure the STD, and gasp test my kids for paternity. My disarray makes it hard for me to think clearly. My head is full with thoughts. One part of me hates her and wishes I had never met her, while the other loves and forgives her. I wish I could disappear right now. I appreciate your excellent advice and help. It helped throughout this difficult period. My in-laws generously offered to keep the kids while my wife attended her conference after my last piece. My pandemonium is still unknown to them. I photographed her notebooks during this time. Every entry cut the back, astonishment and shock. The person I considered my friend and boyfriend for almost 10 years is unrecognizable. Without going into detail, the diary's revelations surpass any TV drama or film I've seen. Within 2 years, she dated at least 6 men. These interactions occurred during her seminars, lunches, brief business trips, and other work-related events. I thought I was helping her work while watching the kids at home. Some emails, without regret, congratulate me for being a caring husband and father and describe how great these events were for her. Her lack of guilt worries me about her mental and emotional wellness. The gravity of her deceit. While reading the journals, I felt miserable and contemplated suicide. I needed a few days with friends because I was afraid of doing anything irreparable. They helped me find a therapist and supported me during this trying time. I go to therapy weekly. They also connected me with divorce lawyers. I'm also getting STD treatment. My return from my in-laws after picking up the kids was devastating. I was unable to grin. My daughter glanced at me while I contemplated suicide. She approached me and hugged me without warning, saying anything. I broke down, held her, and cried in front of her. It was almost too embarrassing to consider leaving my children to their mother's contempt. She's my angel. I needed sleeping pills for the first several weeks after knowing the truth because I couldn't sleep. My significant lack of motivation hurt my job and personal life. I persisted and found that working out was the only thing that helped my mood. The person who told me to keep up my workout routine in the last post may have saved my life. The more my wife returned from her trip, she became more stressed. I had to swallow my dislike for her and my knowledge of her behavior at first. I've gotten used to it, yet it still drains me. She agreed something was unusual, but she still behaves as I had no idea what happened. Her shamelessness is astounding. She asked me to give her the expensive gift I promised for our 10th anniversary, but I mentioned that she had departed for another business trip the day before, which she had painstakingly documented in her diaries. My mood is improving thanks to therapy and workout despite expecting to meet her latest boyfriend on my birthday. I never saw a therapist before and regret not doing so sooner. Some part of me thought I was responsible for everything after my wife misled me in the worst way. I blamed myself for many things, maybe if I had done this or worked harder. My therapist helped me recognize that, while I might have done things differently, I cannot be held liable for her actions, and that no one should be misled like I was. My flaws are that I put her needs above mine, trust her blindly, and accept full responsibility for everything. I always let her leave after. I convinced myself that I was doing it for her, to support her business, to let her relieve stress from being at home, that this is what a supportive husband would do, and that if I had a better job or made her happier, she wouldn't need to escape from home, even though it was hard for me to balance work and looking after the kids alone every time she went on these trips. My mood is improving, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't depressed. Rage sustains me these days, as I feel more wrath than loss. My therapist recommended using my anger to fuel my efforts, which worked unexpectedly. After talking to 2 law firms, I was advised to gather further evidence, which I have been doing for weeks. I finally digitized all of her 2-year diary collection. When I accessed her computer, I found too many photographs, chat conversations, and papers to prove my point. I've screenshotted her warped Facebook secret group, where she shares all her adventures. I have listed all her sex partners in her journals and have started identifying them on social media. I've found her employer and her current sexual partner's homes by gathering as much information as possible. I'm considering confronting them. These diaries' bizarre stuff made me assume she was writing an unusual novel until I saw everything else on her computer, etc. Perhaps I'm broken. However, I'm enjoying gathering all this information, comparing it to her journals, and learning more about her and her loves. Since her business relies heavily on social media, I want to see her explode on social media by sharing everything I've found out, but doing so would hurt her parents, who have been nothing but supportive of me since we met. Tied the knot. I'm not sure if I should inform her parents, as this would ruin them too. I want to face her after discussing how to gain custody of my children with the attorneys. In my country, it's unfair for the mother to have custody of her children, even if she's unfit, and determine the divorce and child support terms. Anyway, thanks for your feedback. I felt helpless and unclear how to approach the situation a few weeks ago. Nowadays, I feel like I'm gently climbing out of my hole. I apologize for not responding to all comments. My kids have my whole focus right now.